connection, obviously, to Africa. But also too, I like to be very upfront about what's happening in the industry. I think I have a unique perspective as a person who has literally worked in all of these positions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now I get to talk about it in a way that a lot of people who write about food don't really have that perspective. They maybe do it from like a dining perspective, or maybe they went to journalism school or whatever, right? Which is fantastic. That's just not something I did. So I like to make those points of, hey, what you're saying is right, but also as somebody who has been in this position, let me tell you maybe why you're not all the way right. You know what I mean? Um, and I my main thing though I would say is that I like to write particularly so that Black people can see themselves in the things that I write. That's what I keep in mind as I'm writing. I want my peers and my grandma and somebody's auntie to be able to read what I'm writing or the recipe that I'm making. And it's something that they understand. It's something that they feel connected to. It's something that, you know, they wouldn't have even thought of about, you know, well, why is okra soup so special? Where did this come from, right? You'll never be able to go to Africa, but now you know that, hey, the food that you've been making your entire life has a story. Um,
Hmm.
so that I think that's the main thing that I try to keep in mind when I do right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, you talked a little bit about low country, and that's where you're from, and you have a perspective on low country cuisine. And can you talk about that? Can you elaborate?
It's obviously it's something I'm very passionate about. I didn't know how special our food was until I left home.
Mm.
Which I think so many, you
Hmm.
have to leave home to kind of really, really grasp why. But um, so much of the cuisine from different parts of the Low Country, because I don't want it gets kind of misconstrued often that Low Country means just Charleston, South Carolina, and it doesn't. We're talking about a really large part of the Southeast. We're talking about North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, right?
Hmm.
Um, so we're talking about foodways that really were extremely influenced by enslaved West Africans, by, you know, uh, every possible thing that could have occurred to a Black American, throughout hundreds of years, right? Our food is the basis of that. Before we had the Great Migration, we was down here. I mean, obviously there are people all over the country, right? But like we were so predominantly in the South that like our food, once we started leaving, our food is the basis for what people think American cuisine is or what people think Southern cuisine is. Um,
What
and
sets
it's
low
Yeah,
country cuisine apart from cuisine, say, from like Mississippi or Georgia or Tennessee, the Southern cuisine there?
I
Because there
would
is
I
a
would
distinct
say
difference, right?
I would say so. I think that obviously our connection, like I said, to West African culture is extremely heavily influenced. I would say on par, if not even just as much or more than maybe Louisiana, right? Or Mississippi in the Delta. We are hyper focused on fresh ingredients. You go and you can go crabbing, you can go catch shrimp, and 10 minutes later you're eating that what you just caught. People still grow vegetables in their yards. We have fruit trees everywhere, blackberry bushes everywhere that just grows wild. So when we talk about Southern food in particular, it gets this bad rep of, oh, it's unhealthy and it's
Mhm.
salty and it's too sugary and it's all these things, and it's like it's
And
really not.
everything's
We're like,
fried.
yeah, and it's like, but we're the original farm to table. You can't get much more fresh than what it is here. Nature is abundant, and it always has been abundant, and it's always been good to us. So, we've always been very careful to take care of it because it's always taking care of us. And I think that that's a really, important part of our cuisine. And also, I would say, too, the influence of indigenous cultures here, especially because there aren't really any indigenous people here anymore. But we had that connection with them so long ago that a part of their culture survives through us being able to still kind of shrimp and grits. Shrimp and grits is not from us. We
Hmm.
wouldn't have had shrimp and grits if the indigenous cultures didn't teach us how to make grits. You know what I mean? How to
Right.
nixtamalize corn. Now, granted, we had maybe some things that were very similar, but when you see shrimp and grits, that comes from those cultures merging. Um, so I think that
Cornbread.
cornbread, we wouldn't have cornbread. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have corn. We wouldn't have mush, right? Like so many of these dishes now. Johnny cakes, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like ash cakes, things like that, that we wouldn't have had without the influences of these cultures. And I think that it's something that you do see kind of across Southern foodways, but when we start talking about, we start moving a little bit further inland, obviously, there's less seafood, right? So that's obviously a huge part of our culture.
Mhm.
Um, we talk about okra, we talk about bene, we talk about ingredients that were specifically brought here by West Africans, or we talk about ingredients maybe that were already here in the Americas, but we kind of took it and made it our own.